Hey guys, it's Neve, and woo, I'm excited. Have you guys heard the big news? Catfish is coming to the UK. Like, you're getting your own version of the show, which means if you live in the UK and you think you might be getting catfished, or maybe a friend or family member is catfished, or you need our help in any way, please, we want to hear your stories. So apply, and hopefully we can help. All right, good luck.
Hello, it's Antonia Jones, and I'm back with a very special edition of my podcast, I'm a Mum, Fix My Life. I've got a very special guest from MTV's hit show, Catfish. It's Janet Chute. She's one of the show's senior MTV casting producers, and today we're discussing all things Catfish, including being a single parent and dating during lockdown. So what brings Catfish to the UK for the first time ever?
Yeah, finally we're getting our own series. So we all know the US series, it's in series 9 at the moment, hugely successful off the back of the news documentary in 2010. So it's been 10 years, the Catfish journey, and it's taken that long to get to the UK. We're doing our first series because it is of the time. Catfishing is on the increase because of the pandemic, so no better time to be doing it in the UK than doing it now when people are being forced into more and more online relationships, because that's the only way of meeting new people.
And that's one thing I want to talk about. I've got some statistics as well to talk about online dating and what has happened since we've had the lockdown over here in the UK as well. So firstly, it'd be really good to find out more about your career for any mums who are quite interested in getting into TV production. So how did you get into TV production?
So I did a undergraduate in journalism. My English teacher when I was 16 said I was a good writer and I had a nice voice, and she said I should consider going into broadcast journalism. So I had a look at that, and I also looked into psychology. So I'm fascinated by people and people's behaviours, and also helping people and why they do the things they do. So I was brought up by a single mom, and she was a human and animal rights activist. So part of it comes from that, wanting to help people and animals, and but also a fascination with human behaviour. So I decided to go down the journalism route, and when I came out of uni, I got a job on a news radio station in Ireland called News Talk. And then I decided I really wanted to do television, and I wanted to give the UK, which is a much bigger market, a go. So I came over and I did a master's here in Leeds in broadcast journalism, and thought I'd go into radio, but my first job was in television. And I was a personal assistant and a development researcher, which is where you come up with the ideas for television shows and try and get them commissioned. And that was kind of my big break into it all. Along the way, I've done loads of different shows, from well-known shows like Richard and Judy when I was on Channel 4, did a panorama, worked on a BAFTA-nominated documentary, Charlie Hebdo, 3 Days that Shook Paris. Last summer, I did a much more fun show, which was Rich Holiday, Poor Holiday, where families from opposite ends of the wealth divide got to swap holidays and try out each other's holidays. So a whole host of varied things. We do have, obviously, lots of great mums working in the industry. The industry was quite a tough place for mums for a while, but things have got a lot better. And there's now job sharing is coming in, which is really useful. So you get really experienced mothers, and sometimes it's both of them are mothers, sometimes it's with someone who can only do part-time for maybe health or other reasons, and they team up and they job share. So that's a big drive that's been in the industry, and it seems to be expanding and working very, very well, because we were losing some of the mums and having a bit of a brain drain out of the industry, which was such a shame, because you can't make up for experience by putting someone more junior in the position. So there's lots of great mums that I know, heads of development, executive producers, series producers, senior casting producers, directors. You see mums with their big bumps going out in the field directing, and yeah, it's a great place for parents these days.
And what's good about that is the fact that mums, if they can run a home, then they can run anything. That's how I see it. Run a project at work, and that's the value that they bring to the organization. So that is just so good to know. And that's something I wanted to touch on a bit later on. How can a mum make it in the industry because of the fast pacedness of it and everything like that? So I'm glad you touched on that. So what do you like most about your job?
I love meeting people. It's all about the people for me. And I love working with contributors that are normal members of the public. So I have worked with some celebrities and some famous people, but it's real people that I'm interested in, real people's stories, giving them a voice, helping them, or enabling them to have some fun, depending on the show that I'm working on. So that's what appeals to me the most about my job. I do love when you get a show that, like, I've worked on some things that have changed government policy and improved people's lives. It doesn't happen all the time. When it does, that's extremely rewarding. But the thing I enjoy about my job every day is talking to new people, listening to their stories, and even some of the stories they don't make it on air for whatever reason. It's still that interaction that you have with someone, they share something with you. It's very special, and I think it's quite a privilege, our job, that people are willing to share their lives with us, and get, you know, some of the issues out there. At the moment, obviously, I'm working on MTV's Catfish, and you think, oh yes, it's a great reality type show, but actually it's really a current affairs documentary series. This is a current affairs issue that we're dealing with. Catfishing is something that any single person, or as we're learning, there's other types of catfishing. I discovered a new one recently, employment catfishing, which can happen to any of us, where there's people getting in touch with people saying they've got a great job for them. They make them interview 4 or 5 times for it, all on Zoom, obviously, because of the pandemic. And at the end of it, there's no job, or they start a job and then they don't get paid.
Wow, that's new to me.
New to me too.
Never
Didn't
heard
know
of that.
anything about it.
Is that like a new TV series then? But being there.
Well, I think it's definitely like hopefully, I don't know if we'll get a story around that, but it was something new and that, we're looking into. But obviously the main ones are romance stories, because relationships and dating, it's become more and more popular. The 2 people I know that were supposed to get married this year, the 2 couples, they both met online. That's how people meet, and these days, and particularly busy people. So the kind of people that do online dating or in relationships are people who are away a lot for work, like they work in the airline industry or in oil rigs, or they work in haulage, or single parents. These are all extremely busy people, so you're more likely to be online and doing online dating, and all the pros and cons and the funny stories and the pitfalls that come with it.
Yes, we're going to talk about that. You just jumped ahead. So just jumping back slightly, it's quite competitive in the industry, in your industry, and I know that because I've worked in it myself. So what advice would you give to a mum wanting to get into the industry?
You have to kind of think of what skills you have and to be able to sell yourself. You may have to start at the bottom, and that's quite, you might have to be a runner initially, and work your way up. But you can learn a lot and make a lot of contacts when you start out. So it is tough, but if you are really good at your job, there's loads of opportunities. You can move up. There's also loads of different areas within it. So if you're a mum with young kids that maybe can't go away from home as much, there's lots of jobs that are much more office based. It isn't all about going out on shoots all the time. In fact, most of my job is office based, and then I go out on the road sometimes. So if you've got someone who can do childcare for you, some of the time, you could still do some of those jobs that bring you out on the road. As your kids get older, then it's a bit easier, and there's more and more opportunities. But there's kind of 2 main routes. One is production, and that's the super organization, like setting up everything behind the scenes, getting all the logistics right, health and safety, these days all the COVID structure of shoots, making sure everyone has what they need, gets the equipment they need, all of that kind of stuff. And they don't tend to go out on location as much, those roles, but they need the skills of super organizers like super single moms. They're exactly the kind of people who are brilliant at those kind of roles. And then for if you're kind of really creative and maybe organization isn't your strong suit, then there's the editorial roles, which is more the casting, going out in the shoots, and story producing and things like that. And again, that's really it's very exciting, but a lot of it is office based again. So you can, if you've got, the right person to share childminding with you, you would be able to do those editorial roles, and just kind of, you can pick to work on productions that are maybe more UK based until your kids get older, and you can do the foreign shoots. And to be honest, I always prefer the UK productions anyway, because it's more fun. You get to go around the country. It's all, British, Irish people, or people from around the world in Britain anyway. So you don't really need to go very far to get amazing stories when you live in this country.
And there's lots to see as well. And it's so good where you mentioned about the job sharing as well. That gives mums the opportunity to work part-time and learn at the same time. So things are changing so much in the industry, and it's good to know. So mums, there is the opportunity there. Go for it. As Janet has said.
Yes, definitely. Come in and super organize us, please, because we could do with it.
Like if you could run a home, getting everyone ready to get to school, and then looking after children, all of the activities, and then coming home and then doing the washing. There's a plan of action in there. Definitely, there's a lot to be said. So we're just moving on to talk about the horror stories of online dating. And the COVID-19 pandemic has driven most people online. So because we've had to socially distance as well ourselves, and we've also got to watch out for coronavirus and just making sure we're having our face coverings and things like that. So there's lots of pros and cons. I've also seen that there's loads of online dating platforms that have just advertised, they've ramped up the advertising, like Bumble, and also Facebook as well. I actually got a notification the other day, but of course I politely declined because for my own reasons, busy doing my podcast, and there's so much out there to do, and I was quite interested to see that notification come up. I haven't been looking on any sites, but it's just the fact that people are looking for relationships, or even people just to talk to, just friendship. So I was also reading a recent survey by the relationship charity called Relate, and it said that 61% of around 2,000 people felt that lockdown has made them realise that relationships are the most important things in their lives. So what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm single and I'm online dating in the pandemic, so I can totally relate, excuse the pun after you talking about the charity, and so is my housemate. So the two of us have been dating in the pandemic, and it is difficult. I think some of the nice things about it is it's made people slow down and think about what they want from a relationship. And there's a lot more dating going on, because you obviously can't go out and have a snog at the end of the first date like you used to. Now you have to date for a few dates and see if you like someone, and the rules are you have to be in an established relationship before you can do anything like that. So I think it's brought back kind of almost an old school, slightly Jane Austen-esque, because you have to maintain a 2-meter distance if possible and things like that. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, to slow down and for people to actually seriously think about what they want in a relationship, rather than just dating and hoping that something sticks. The cons, of course, are that there's opportunists out there who have seized upon this, and there's a massive increase in catfishing, funnily enough. And because they've got the perfect excuse not to meet up with you. It's like, oh, can we meet up and go for a nice walk together? And they can say, no, we're not allowed in the pandemic. Now, the first lockdown, that was true. Eventually, we were allowed to meet up with one person outside our household. But this time around, it wasn't. But they still were using it as an excuse. So, at home, we have to shield because my grandfather is here in the house, or whatever, all those excuses. So all those things have been going on as well. But I do think people have had to be more creative too. So if you want to go on a date with someone and there's no pubs, cafes and restaurants open, so what do you do? So one day I did myself was I met up with the guy in the park, and I brought a bottle of Prosecco with me and 2 little glasses, and I popped it out. We sat on the bench and we had a little chat. We didn't go on a second date, but it was very nice to see that you could still go on a date. My housemate she's actually met someone through online dating since the beginning of September. And the big problem is, when do you step up the relationship into the bedroom? Like, when is that okay? So they have been dating for 3 months, and they've only managed to actually have a nice night together once in those whole 3 months because of the pandemic. And tonight they were supposed to be meeting up again. She was so excited and shaved her legs and everything. And he messaged her and said someone wasn't able to go out at work, and he had to go out instead on this big run in a work vehicle, and they had to cancel and reschedule, and she was devastated. So now she's doing yoga instead while I'm doing this interview. So, these are the pitfalls that, that this is just an example of like two, normal women that are trying to date. So I'm totally, when people are applying for the show or when I'm listening to people's stories, I can totally relate to why they would end up in these scenarios, because it is so difficult trying to figure out how to find a relationship in the pandemic.
And now that you say that about the interaction, I actually went on a dating seminar with a friend of mine, and I went for research purposes, and nobody believes me for that. I did it for radio just to find out about it. I was very skeptical about it, and it was organized by a Matthew Hussey. I'm not sure if you've heard of him, and he's New York's best-selling author of Get the Guy. So this was like about 7 hours. It's like a whole day's work, tips and hints on how to interact with different people and how to feel liberated. At some stage, I felt like it was like a Bridget Jones moment. Like women were just jumping around and talking to one another. And there was a stage where they had women like in groups together, and the music was really loud, and they were saying, trying to have a conversation inside of like you're in a bar, but it's not possible, because how can you talk over a bar? That's not the right place. So they were saying things like go to the library, to the coffee shop. The things that you like doing is that's where you would meet that person. But obviously with the online dating now, and because of the lockdown, the different tiers, things have slightly changed. So then that kind of makes me think about that whole scenario, as you say, where people are catfishing, and what do you actually do in that situation? But they are more hot on the face-to-face interaction, as I mentioned. But in this day and age, things have changed slightly different. So we kind of need to be a bit more savvy in how we do things. So that was really interesting. So I've got some more figures. So early March, the UK went into lockdown, and by the end of March, Tinder users made 3 billion swipes worldwide on Sunday, the 29th of March. So that was the biggest figure ever recorded in a day. So I'm quite shocked at that, really shocked. So we went into lockdown, and then all of a sudden there was lots of people going online. I've heard stories of friends who have been married, they've had success stories, some haven't worked. So there's so many different pros and cons to that. So it's just looking at it as a whole. I've gone through a few pros and cons. I'm going to throw a few in your direction, Janet, to kind of feel what's your take on this kind of thing. So I've got here, it's a con, it's a crowded digital space. What's your thinking around that with online dating?
Yes, it's how do you filter through to find the people that are suitable for you? Yeah, it's a massive problem. I have tried different dating apps to see if any of them have a solution to it. So I actually upgraded my Tinder account during they had a Cyber Monday sale last week. So I was finally able to try it for not a ridiculous amount of money. And it's great. All my matches are there in one go, and now I can filter through them. Well, I have tried some other dating apps, and the matches that they were suggesting to me, so I tried Match.com and I hated it. I went off it after 24 hours because you just have all these random guys messaging you. So yeah, I think particularly like busy people like that have got jobs that are very intense, and single mums and stuff. It is, we're time poor people. We don't have a lot of time. If you've got quite a chilled out job, you can spend an hour in an evening. What mum has got an hour in the evening to herself? She's got 15 minutes, right? She's got 15 minutes, and she needs to get in there, and she needs to find out what, try and find some nice guy to, engage with, and then see if there's a connection there. Unfortunately, it seems to be that paying for stuff is getting to be the way to do that. They kind of, they want you to pay for things. So my advice would be is wait until they have their sales, and then try it for 1 month on a cheap deal. Don't like, because I think it was $26.99 normally to try it for 1 month on Tinder, but I got it for $13.99. So that's a massive savings. So I think it's things like that do help. I think also figuring out which apps have the kind of people that are suitable for you. So there's muddy matches, for example, for people who are into countryside stuff. So if you're someone who's really into outdoorsy pursuits, maybe, you know, muddy matches is better for you. Or one of my friends who got married this year and met his wife, he went on Muzmatch, because then they would have things in common with their background, and the two of them hit it off and they're now married. So I think it's kind of looking at the best dating app for you and what you can get out of it. If you're someone who's a bit more, you know, maybe you live in a big city like London or something like that, then is Tinder maybe the right place? Maybe there's too many people there. So maybe you're better to go on a more specialist dating app. But I don't think there is a trick to it. It's just a matter of finding which app works for you. You know, some people love Hinge because they're supposed to be connected to your Facebook friends, although I'm not so sure it is like that anymore. Other people prefer Bumble because it's a woman making the first move, and tends to be us messaging first a lot of the time, I find, anyway these days. So you may as well go onto an app that it is like that. Yeah, I think it's kind of having a play around. And also remember, in the UK, they've got a 14-day cooling off period. So if you sign up to a dating app in the UK and it is not working for you, they have to refund you, and they cannot charge you for it. So remember that when you're doing dating apps, and subscribe to them directly, not through the Apple Store or through your Android phone, because then the contract was done with those stores. Do it with, you know, do it directly with the dating app. And there is a 14-day cooling off period in this country that you can then enact if it's not working for you.
Well, Janet, you've touched on most of my pros and cons, which is good. So you've touched on them. Is it hard to evaluate a match without any physical interaction? No, actually, once you start to talk with that person, you'll see if there's any synergy there. Apparently 1 out of 5 relationships start online. There's lots of skepticism about relationships, and people may not get married, and it's just like for short relationships. But then, like, there's some wonderful stories where people have actually got long-term relationships, or they're married as a result of that as well. So lastly, the con is people do lie on their profiles, and that's really shocking. And this is relative to MTV's Catfish production you've been working on, and it's back, as you say, for a new season over here in the UK, following this success of the US series as well. And I actually watched the documentary about Catfish with Neve and Max, and it tells us lots about how it all started. So tell us about this.
Yeah, so the big presenter in the US, he was doing it with Max, one of his best friends. Now he's doing it with Kamie, who is this amazing ex-beauty queen in America, and she's really funny. She's great. So she's replaced Max in the more recent series. But Neve got catfished himself, so he knows exactly what it's like to be a hopeful on the show who comes on, and they are hoping the person is who they say they are at the end of it. In the US series, it tends to be, they have had some happy endings, but there's more not happy endings, unfortunately. But they have had some relationships and couples come together. But he knows himself because he got catfished by a married woman, Angela. And the term catfishing comes from a description that her husband made, which was one of the opening clips of the documentary, where he talked about the cod, and when they were transported across the oceans, they used to all die because they wouldn't move around. So they put catfish in there to kind of chase them around and keep them moving, so that the cod would arrive alive and fresh in port. And he said that's what his wife's like, because she keeps people moving, and it stops their lives being boring and mundane. So that's where it all came from. Massively successful documentary, won loads of awards. Incredible. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It was 10 years ago now, but still so current to today, even more current today. Yeah, and then the TV series came off the back of it. So it's Neve himself. I can't announce who the presenters are yet for our one. Yeah, so the UK will have its own presenters, which is very exciting. But that's top secret at the moment. But it's Neve presents the one in the US, and he's great because he knows and understands what it's like to be hopeful, and and in a lot of cases to not get the result that you were hoping for. And it'll be really interesting to see the UK version, because it hasn't been done here before. And I think there isn't as much of an awareness of catfishing as in, oh, that's something that happens in the US. And I think people maybe don't even know they're being catfished because they haven't realized that person still is avoiding a video call. And they're like, oh, it's fine. It's just because it's the pandemic or whatever excuse the person is using. So I think it'll be great to bring it into British life, that people see it is something that is happening. It's rife in the UK. And for people to realize they are being catfished, so that they, cannot get into those scenarios. So hopefully we will help a lot of people, but we're here to help in the meantime. And, we want to get applicants coming in. We want to make sure that we're helping the right people and reaching the right people who are, in relationships where they've got suspicious that they are being catfished. And it might be that you're not being, and we might confirm that you are actually talking to the person that you think you are, and they are, very, very shy, and that's why they have a video call. Or it might be that we can expose them for you. You can really find out who they really are. And yeah, we're here, and we like to go catfish hunting.
And the documentary, I do remember the quote about catfish at the end. I remember that part, and I thought, wow, that is such a powerful statement about catfish. And I thought I can see how it all developed. But it's really interesting that you touch on those subjects about like the online safety. There's so much issues as well with the subjects in the actual documentary. And there was issues that came up with mental health as well. The subject feeling quite depressed because she had 2 stepchildren who had disabilities. So posing as somebody else was her escapism. And people do tend to do that online, whether it's changing a picture or even just telling a fib and not telling the truth. And it's always good to be open. So based on the US series, is there any of interest that will be quite good to highlight to let us know more about, just to give us a bit of flavour about the kind of pros and the cons?
Yeah, so there's a very famous episode, and it has a British connection, and it was Spencer and Katie episode. And it was where this very nice guy from Tennessee thought for 6 years that he was dating Katy Perry. And they had messages, he bought an engagement ring, everything. And it turned out to be a Canadian girl who moved to Britain. So it's the only time that they've ever filmed in the UK. And they flew over, and he finally met this girl, Harriet, who had been doing it. Unfortunately, Harriet was a lesbian, so there was no hope of them even having any kind of romantic relationship when they met up, which sometimes has happened actually, because they realised they love the person, not the photos. But that's an amazing episode. For anyone who hasn't seen it, it's on Amazon at the moment. It's series 5. And if you've got Amazon Prime, you can watch it for free. I won't say any more because I don't want to spoil it. But that's an incredible episode. And yeah, it's kind of, you can't believe it can happen, but when you watch the episode, then you can. A good episode kind of that is maybe very relatable to a lot of your listeners is the Miracle and Giovanni episode. It was the first episode in series 4. And it's this amazing single mom who went online dating and met this guy. He's gorgeous, Giovanni, her perfect guy, chatting to her. And they track down the real guy in the photos, and he hadn't been talking to her at all. He didn't know his photos had been stolen, and she got to video call with him and see for real that was what it was. But they did track her down, and it was kind of a couple, but it was more Cara, the wife, was doing it, and her reasons for doing it were, like you said, people have different reasons, and this is a very good example. So she got diagnosed with lupus, which is quite a life-changing autoimmune disease, and she was stuck at home a lot, and she does have 2 kids as well, and her husband goes away a lot for work. So she had set up this fake profile, and it became something for her to do at home. I think initially it was set up to try and catch her friend's partner who they suspected was cheating, but then it turned into something else. And the the person that Miracle that she had been catfishing, she actually did feel a strong connection with her. And you know, and said that she used to be disappointed if she woke up in the morning and Miracle hadn't messaged her. So it was very interesting. She got an emotional dependence on her. At the end of the episode, they give you a 2-month recap. They hadn't become friends, but there has been newspaper reports since that they actually have become friends. So maybe it was one of those things that turned into a friendship instead. But it was just someone at home who was lonely. You know, a lot of people who catfish are nice, good people. You know what I mean? And we would like to help if there's any catfish out there who want to come clean to the people they've been catfishing, or it might just be one person. We're there to help you, and we understand the reasons why, because everyone's got a reason for doing something, and it's often very complex. But we can help unpick it if you need us to.
And that's really important, Janet, because I watched an episode. It was a US version, and there were 2 best friends, and the best friend had fallen in love with her best friend and had posed to somebody else and got her guy friend involved, and eventually she confessed. And so that confession time is just so important from the onset, just to be totally honest. And it was so difficult because they lived in the same home. They were, I believe they were probably around about under 20 or so. And so one friend lived with her friend and her parents. So then breaking that news that actually she's in love with her friend, it just kind of tore that relationship apart because of the lying and everything. And it was just shocking to see it, how they were both hurt, the emotions that get involved. So it's not just the fact that the person who's doing that, who may feel like they're quite happy because they've got someone to meet, but at the same time, there's lots of emotions and it can cause friendships to break up. People can feel depressed because they confide in someone. That's how Neve felt in his initial documentary. And he said he had this kind of connection. Is it with Angela? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes, with Angela.
Yeah.
Had this connection, and then I really felt for him. And then at the time Max had said, right, I said I was going to film this documentary for you, and then Neve was kind of getting a little bit frustrated because he had that connection, and it happens, doesn't it? And I thought, wow, he's a human being. He feels the same, even though he's being filmed. And so it's quite heart-wrenching to see that. And then at the end, when he met Angela and her partner and the children, and she was crying as well, and because she felt really sorry. So I felt that connection again, and I thought, wow, there's 2 sides of it. Angela wanted some escapism, and Neve was emotionally connected because he felt they were friends, but it wasn't real, it wasn't built on the right foundation. So that was quite interesting to see that.
Yeah, it is. And I think people, sometimes you get double catfishing stories where the person who is kind of, they may, particularly these days, people doctor their photos a lot. They use a lot of filters. And what might actually happen is that both of them have been filtering their photos so much they're scared to meet up, but they actually are the people that they say they are, but they've just maybe photoshopped themselves a little bit skinnier, and they've got the perfect skin because they've made it perfect through a filter. And then they're scared the person won't love the reality. And it is interesting where you get, they have had cases where there's kind of been double catfishing going on just because people have been slightly dishonest. So catfishing doesn't have to be a massive, big dishonesty thing like the Katy Perry thing. It could be something as simple as you've not been as honest in your photos as you should have been. They were, they've been filtered to make you look a lot younger and your skin look perfect and whatever. But sure, nobody is perfect. So if you meet up with a person, they're still going to probably really, really like you. They probably know the photos have been filtered and whatever, and they've probably been doing the same with their photos.
Filter's such an easy thing to press. Even just looking at the different profiles, people can create several profiles and start using those to kind of interact with somebody to make out that they are this person who they say that they're not as well. So that's another thing.
Yeah, and people steal photos. So if you are suspicious of someone that you're dating online, the best thing you do is you can reverse Google image search photos. So you can either put in the link to their profile with the photo and do it that way, or you can save photos if they've been sending them to you on a messaging service. And then you can put them through, and you can find out if that has got a hit anywhere else. And then if that does, you can look through the profiles and see if they are who they say they are. And it might be that you get no hits on it because they might be who they say they are and the photos might have come off their phone, or it could be that they're stealing the photos from a private account so that they're not going to come up in search engines. You don't know, but it's always worth having a look that way. Also, if you're getting lots of lovey-dovey messages, lazy catfish sometimes just cut and paste them from like almost love letters that you can find online, pre-written for you. So you can cut and paste in bits of text and see if you get any hits on that, and then you know that they've been stealing the words of someone else to try and woo you. And never give money, no matter what. Even if it's just 10, 20 pounds, never, ever, ever give money to anyone you're dating online. And they're kind of the three things that you can do to protect yourself. Obviously no one can fully protect themselves from anything. But though, if you do those three things, and just see what you got, then if you've got no hits on them and it's looking okay, then just persuade the person onto a video call as soon as you can.
That's really important, that video call. And once you get onto that video call, and if you get lots of kind of rejection from them and they're saying, no, I'm not available, then that's the telltale signs. I definitely agree with that.
Come to us, we'll sort it out for you.
So I have got a few dating dilemmas some of our mums have experienced across our network and across the globe as well. So we're going to go to be some dating gurus we are today. So we've got 20 seconds to answer 10 questions. So I'm going to fire some questions at you, and then even at myself, even though I've seen the answers, but I made sure I didn't try to recite or memorize. So courtesy of a match.com as well, also included some of the kind of questions, and also Mumsnet. So Janet, you ready? Right, I'm going to start my timer now. Right, I'll start my timer once I say it. So should I set up a separate email address for dating? Yes or no, and why?
Yes, because then you can, they don't have all your personal details that are linked to all your accounts. So I would say yes.
Oh, that was quick. You got 5 seconds to spare. Right, so for me now, how many dates should I go on? I'm thinking date. Well, I think it depends on your diary and how much time you've got, but just space them out. And if you have that interest in that person, then go for it. But not like have a string of 20 people or so. That's a bit too much. Who has the time?
It's a lot of messaging, 20 people. I don't know. I wouldn't be able to keep up with that.
Oh, yes. That is way too much. Like, it's like a full-time job, isn't it? Right, so I've got another one. When and where should we meet? When there's time. What should you do? Safety and first time dates and location. That's what I'm thinking of on that one.
Yeah, always in a public place, and always tell someone where you're going and what time you are going to get back, and message someone after you've finished a date. And anyway, you're going to want to, because most of the time they go terrible and you'll be like, oh my God, this guy was terrible. What was I doing? What was I thinking? I thought he was nice on the app, and in reality he was horrible. And my advice, always try and meet up with people or video call as soon as possible, because you might not have a spark. You don't want to be wasting time messaging them for ages, do you?
No. Okay, my one. Should I mention the kids? I think that it's really important to mention the children, and not too much detail, but just to know, be upfront. And it's the same issue with what happened in the documentary. He knew straight away more about the children in the family household, but that's good to know as well. Okay, Janet. So what about taking time to introduce the kids to the potential partner on the back of the question that I've had?
Oh, I think you'd want to be sure about them first of all. So you want to scope them out and make sure that, there's someone that you want to actually have a relationship with. But if your kids are a bit older, then it's a little bit different, because they can actually be great barometer of whether someone's good or bad. So with younger kids, I think wait and make sure that you're in a good relationship. But with older kids, they can maybe have the deciding vote on whether he stays or goes.
Okay. Oh, this one's for me. Should I give out my real age? Yes, sure, definitely. No doubt about that. I've answered that really quickly, haven't I? The next one is, don't give away too much information that will allow people to find out your real life. Is that a yes or no from you, Janet? Without, bearing in mind catfish and being transparent, how much information should you give out?
Yeah, so this is a tricky one. I do like to know guys' surnames before I go on a date with them, because then I can Google them and I can background check them essentially to make sure that they're okay people. So I think, you know, you don't give out your address and things like that, but I do think you have to give someone your surname, and you know they can see that you're a real person, because they need to be able to confirm that you're not a catfish. It goes both ways.
True. Definitely. I totally agree with that one. I've got another one here. Keep your ex filled in that you're dating for the kids' sake. I totally agree with that, but not too much detail again. But children start mentioning who this person is, and then if they don't, then partner will think, ex-partner will think, oh, what's going on here? So it's always good to be transparent and open at the same time. And also, if they were to visit you as well, at least you know, if you tell them about the partner, or if they see them, at least they know who this person is, because it might be a shock for children to see someone new in the household.
Also, they're a great babysitter, aren't they, for your dates? So it's like, I'm dropping the kids off because I'm going on a hot date again. Sorry, bye.
That's a good one. What about keeping your options open, Janet? What do you think about that?
Yeah, so you can, I think, in the beginning, you know, you can go on a date, multiple dates, and then you have to whittle it down. But eventually, you have to pick it. So I think when it gets to serious, where you know you're thinking, you know, you actually want to spend the night with them and things like that, I think by that stage you should have it whittled down to one. But there's no harm in multi-dating in the beginning, because that's what they're doing as well. That's online dating.
It's true, and this is for both of us. Number 10, don't settle for less than what you deserve. Is that a yes from you, Emily?
Yes, absolutely, because there's plenty of fish in the sea.
There's plenty of fish in the sea. I totally agree with that.
They're not all catfish.
That's amazing. So I think that we've mastered the dating guru now, this session here. So I think we'll have quite a lot of questions coming in. And we've touched on so much, the importance of mental health, online safety. It's been amazing, Janet, speaking to you. So how can mums get in contact if they want to apply for Catfish 2020?
Yeah, so we're on Instagram. So you can find us. It'll be MTV Catfish UK casting. So if you put that in, you'll find us on Instagram. We're also on Facebook. We're on Twitter. And we got a very simple online application form that you can contact us on. And we can also email, and we got a number as well. So I think you've put all of that up on your socials, haven't you? And yeah, please apply, whether you are hopeful or whether you are a catfish. Get in touch, because we can help both sides untangle what it is. And we are hoping that we will get some of our stories will be happy endings, and there'll be some relationships as well at the end.
Yeah, some weddings. Yeah. I'll be quite happy to actually. I love attending weddings. So that'll be nice. Thank you, Janet. It's been amazing speaking to you, and I wish you all the success with the UK version of Catfish. And I can't wait to see who the presenters are, because I know it's going to be fun.
Great. Thank you very much, Antonia, for having us. And get applying if you need our help.
Hey guys, it's Neve, and I am super excited because it is official. Catfish is coming to the UK. That's right. If you have a story and you live in the UK, we want to hear from you, so please apply.